let's dive in. Yeah, super excited actually because, yeah, as Parker mentioned, we've been talking about a lot of AI things. We have an AI panel here, but today we're also going to touch about AI, but predominantly around orchestrations and how we can use Paradigm to do so. One thing I want to show you is, first thing I want to do is I want to show you how we can create data pipelines in Paradigm. In this case, we're actually going to start from very upstream. What I have is a poetry file. I'm actually using DLT Hub. And what I'm doing is I have a Python script that extract data from related to Formula One from one of the OpenFA1.org APIs, which provides a bunch of more data points available to us. So what I'm going to do is the first thing is I'm going to go and set up now a Bolt job or a Bolt schedule, which will effectively allows us to fetch data from the API using Python and then load this data into our Snowflake database. So let me go here. These are Bolt interface. I'll click on new schedule. I'll create an empty schedule here. And let's say I'm going to call this DLT Hub demo pipeline Python 1. Let's give a very long name. Of course, it's loading data from F1 source into Snowflake. I can select my branch and so on, and also, of course, who is the owner. And here's where I'm going to add my command. So I'm going to click on Add Command. I'm going to select Python. So the first thing I want to do is poetry install. This is about installing all the dependencies we have on DLT Hub. And then the other one is actually another Python one, which we're going to use to execute our F1 API pipeline. Now that we added those two, this is where in Paradigm, and this is part of the most recent release, we can, of course, choose the schedule trigger types I want to use. In this case, will be a schedule run. I can set this to run every day at 8 a.m. But now in Paradigm, we support time zones. So I can actually run this, let's say, on Los Angeles time, so Pacific. Times are gone where if you're not in London or nearby London, you have to keep translating UTC time zone into your local time zone. So whether now you are in the US or all parts of the world, we support all time zones. So you can just choose whatever works best for you. And now I'm going to set up my notification layer. One of the amazing features we have in Paradigm is around our notification settings that we provide. So we have something called SLA threshold. So here I'm going to say if the pipeline is still running after 15 minutes, I want to make sure that I receive an alert. So while it's running, we can send notifications, say, hey, this is actually not meeting your SLA. And I can set different type of notification for each of the destination I want. Let's say here I'm going to type now custom at. And let's say for custom, we want to send them just failure and SLA. And I can also type, for example, here, I can type another Slack channel if I want to, and here I want to maybe send all three again. So this is how simple it is to set up any pipeline. Right now we're setting up our Python pipeline in Paradigm in there. So I can click on deploy. And this will now deploy our Bolt schedule. And here is now no runs yet. We can just dive in. And we can use our run button to trigger this right away. So we don't have to wait tomorrow to run this again. And this is where the execution will start. In a few seconds, the job will be available to us to inspect the logs as well. And now we can see that we're installing a bunch of dependencies. We're running poetry install, installing all the things we need to make our API calls and ingest the data inside our Snowflake. Oh, might be, let's see what we have here. Oh, okay. I think I know. Good, then we have fallback, but merge happens. Cool. Let's go back to ours. We have another pipeline that we just created earlier. We can go here. We can see this one. We can run it again. I'll just select one of my custom branches. Is something we can do in here. I'll type live stream bolt. And let me just redeploy it. And I'll go and run my pipeline again. So this is what we would have expected to run now, which is if I go here, I'll see that I have my console log for all the poetry installation that I ran before. And fundamentally, I also have now my pipeline that is just being executing here just now. I can see a bunch of data has been already fetched and loaded into our database. A bunch of tables have basically been created for data around weather and race control and a few other data points that we want to track. Now, the other thing I want to do is about how do we chain both schedules in Paradigm? How can we chain them together? How do we can make them run so that on completion on this particular job, we can actually trigger another one there. So I can go back here. Let me go ahead and click on a new schedule. I can go ahead here, and this will be like on completion run. I can keep everything the same. I can have now a dbt command that will be refreshing my data pipeline. And here is where I can actually choose a different trigger. So I can actually choose on completion. And on completion means that we can make this pipeline, this dbt command trigger on the back of another pipeline being executed. I can go ahead and select the workspace where the pipeline lives, and I can do this TF1 ingestion. And here's what we can choose in which condition, right? So we might want to say, hey, we want to trigger this pipeline only if the F1 ingestion completed successfully, okay? And of course, we can choose success or fail or both of them, but same notification layer can be implemented for us, and I can go ahead and click on deploy. And now we're just adding, again, another schedule here. And if I go back to my DLT F1 ingestion, what I can do is I can click on the run button. So we'll go through the live execution. Now what we'll see is that the new schedule I've just created, that will be triggered as soon as this one completes. It's a pretty powerful feature to chain various different components of your production jobs so that you have a full chain of processes that are happening with different checkpoints in between. If you go here, we'll see we again doing the pointer install command, which is all good this time. And then we'll be running our Python ingestion again. And here we are just rerunning this. And now what we'll see is that just after this, we can go back to the auto scheduler. We'll see that will kick in with using this particular job as a trigger. So we're seeing this being very useful when you want to build more conditional workflows or workloads for your data pipelines.